accessibility to a lack of access. Gaps and challenges hamper this industry. Several researchers advocate for blockchain to bridge construction gaps. One possible solution that blockchain offers is the use of smart contracts, which the previous speaker spoke about, which shift traditional manual processes by offering several potential advantages. So basically, a smart contract replaces the traditional boardroom where role players must come together and agree on something. With a smart contract, it's already on the blockchain platform and it has already the predetermined criteria for a transaction to go through. So once all the criteria are met, the transaction automatically goes through without any human interference. So that is what a smart contract is. Despite the advantages and the promises of blockchain, its actual adoption in South Africa's construction industry remains modest. Why? The answer lies not in the technology itself, but in the regulatory and institutional architecture that surrounds it. So when we talk about the regulatory roadblocks, we are talking about those things or the legislation that hinders or that makes the adoption of blockchain difficult in South Africa. Some of the roadblocks are visible, some of them are latent, yet they all hinder the adoption of blockchain. Before I address these roadblocks, it is important to acknowledge that South Africa is rapidly positioning itself as a leader in the global digital finance revolution. As the global economy increasingly turns to decentralized finance and blockchain technologies, South Africa is embracing these innovations to modernize its financial landscape. Building on the remarkable progress made in 2024, the country is advancing comprehensive regulatory frameworks and adopting cutting-edge financial technology. This sets precedents for other industries, and the construction industry could learn from this. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is a lack of clear regulatory frameworks in South Africa. One of the biggest barriers to blockchain adoption is uncertainty surrounding legislations or regulations. Like many countries, South Africa currently lacks a comprehensive regulatory framework tailored for blockchain-based applications. Instead, the country is working with a patchwork of existing legal instruments, which many of them were not designed with digital decentralization in mind. So if we know the way most of our departments or organizations operate is based on a centralized approach, and blockchain advocates for a decentralized approach. So that is one of the biggest problems that threatens the regulations, because it feels as if it's taking the power from the regulators. There are several acts and regulatory bodies that oversee the construction industry. For example, the CIDB Act, which our first speaker spoke about, the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act of 2002, which aims to facilitate the regulation of electronic communications and transactions. While this act provides a starting point, in its current form, it is largely outdated and ill-suited for blockchain-enabled smart contracts because of its centralized nature. Multiple regulators, including the South African Financial Sector Conduct Authority, have issued guidance or commentary on aspects of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. However, there is no unified national policy or regulatory sandbox for blockchain in the construction sector. The CIDB Act and procurement regulations, which are the key regulators in the construction industry, are heavily manual and centralized and are not yet harmonized with digital-led tendering and verification systems. So if you've ever submitted something at CIDB, an application, you'd know how manual the process is. To aid the adoption of blockchain technology, a drastic revolutionization in the legislation and systems used by the gatekeepers of the construction industry is required. The second thing is concerns around data protection. We are all familiar with the POPI Act. The POPI Act raises legitimate concerns around cross-border data flow and storage of personal and project data on decentralized platforms. It presents potential conflict with immutable public blockchains where data erasure is not possible, raising serious questions about data privacy and compliance to the Act. The second issue is institutional conservatism. Public procurement processes and government construction projects are often governed by rigid legal systems that resist digital innovation. Without institutional reform, the introduction of blockchain risks becoming an afterthought rather than an integrated solution. This calls for the industries to rethink their structures and willingness to embrace change. Again, I'm throwing it back to the industry to rethink things. Then we have institutional barriers, which are beyond legislation. The institutional inertia challenges blockchain, as blockchain opposes the centralized traditional governance approach. The cultural and structural friction cannot be underestimated because in the absence of industry-wide standards, pilot projects often operate in silos, leading to fragmentation and duplicated effort. Siloed governance between departments also acts as a barrier to blockchain adoption. So I think one of the biggest things that threatens the adoption of blockchain technology is the resistance to change. Most institutions are comfortable with a centralized approach. So anything decentralization just challenges them out of their comfort zone, which makes it difficult for them to embrace blockchain technology. So what are the pathways to progress? How can we go about those factors that hinder the adoption of blockchain technology? First of all, we could create regulatory sandboxes and experimental zone. What I mean by that is South Africa can create sector-specific regulatory sandboxes, especially within public infrastructure delivery. If you have questions, you can ask the previous speaker who spoke about infrastructure, where blockchain applications can be tested with temporary regulatory waivers. Such environments allow innovation to flourish without immediate legal penalties. We could amend the existing acts that are based on a centralized approach. For example, updating the ECTA to explicitly recognize smart contracts, digital asset registers, and blockchain is essential. Further harmonization with the financial sector regulation or the POPI Act and other relevant statutes will reduce the legal friction. We could develop blockchain standards through the South African Bureau of Standards and industry bodies. I think we have the chair here so he can take notes. So the South African Bureau of Standards, in collaboration with construction councils and academic institutions, should spearhead the development of blockchain tailored standards. So the South African Bureau of Standards, in collaboration with construction councils, and then capacity building and public-private partnerships. Universities and TVET colleges, for example, and other professional bodies must invest in blockchain literacy for project managers, quantity surveyors, engineers, and regulatories. In tandem, public-private partnerships can offer co-finance pilot projects and demonstrate value while sharing risk. So let me conclude by saying this. The road to blockchain implementation in South Africa's construction industry is not smooth. It is covered with legal uncertainties, institutional inertia, and regulatory silos. But it is a road that is worth traveling. For on the other side lies not only greater efficiency and accountability, but a reimagined industry that is more transparent, inclusive, and resilient. We need bold regulatory imagination, collaborative leadership, a shared vision for the future of construction delivery. Let this gathering be a catalyst for that journey that lies ahead of us. Thank you.
Oh, you didn't come this time. Okay. Thank you very much, Doc. Can we take questions from leisure to construction? We have one hand here. Do we have another hand? Okay.
Thank you. So my name is Londo Mbata and I'm a student here at UJ. So my question is based on industry skills. Do you foresee the need for entirely new roles in construction project teams, such as blockchain engineers or smart contract auditors, or will upskilling current project managers be sufficient? Or will upskilling current project managers be sufficient?
I'm glad the question is in.
Are you happy, my lady, with the response? Okay, industry. Okay, there's a gentleman with the red, with the blue shirt.
I was requested to stand. If it's difficult to respond, it's fine. But I heard that you deal with regulation, procurement of the government or public. The question is, you talk about the decentralization. And when we do, I want to place your discussion to say, where should this decentralization happen? We got 3 spheres of government: national, local, and provincial. And we got sectors. Do we decentralize all of them? And when we decentralize, where do you place the DDM, district development model, which says we have to centralize and align? And your discussion talk about the framework for delivery. The latest document that is out is IDMS from National Treasury. If we have to look at this regulation, are you proposing that we have to challenge it, amend it? What does your approach say to DORA, Division of Revenue Act? Do we have to also challenge it? And when professionals are developing solution, how much effort do you put in aligning with existing framework? Thank you.
Okay, a lot was said there. I'll try and remember everything that he said. But I think the first thing that he spoke about was, where does the decentralization happen? The decentralization starts at the top. If we are to decentralize all our departments, we need to start from the national departments and tailor it down, because the centralization goes back to the top. So if we are to decentralize, we start at the top and then bring it down.
Question from the front.
Thank you. Mine is not a question, actually. Is in trying to, as a student, having listened to the presentation, I think the question from the student, it's quite a valid one, because it's in saying, whilst I'm here listening, where is the future for me with the theory that I'll be getting. That's one. Two is what I'm being taught, is it preparing me to be able then to apply the knowledge? And back to your opening remarks, which were quite valid, to say, as educators, we impart the knowledge. But as to how the knowledge assists where you're going, which would be the industry that absorbs you, will it be applicable and will it make a difference? The the statement that was made earlier on by Dr. O as to if there's no problem, there'll be no solution.
Yeah.
So when you get employed, as employers, we're looking for solutions to solve the problems that we are faced with as an industry. So I think it will only be fair also to say that as educators imparting knowledge, we hope that it does then address what the industry is looking for. And in this instance, the question that she's asking is that while burning the all-night oil and both sides of the candles, if we still do burn the candles when there's a need for it, can I have hope?
Okay.
And in that question, what it implies as well is that when you look at the high rate of unemployment of graduates, which now I think it almost sits at 47, 48%, but just on the upper side of that is that it's a worrying thing that as we educate the students, when they leave the campuses, are they going to be adding on that? Or do they become the solutions that they don't have to have a problem with? So it's a bigger problem. And the question as to the catalyst, which is your concluding remarks of this conference, how does it make a difference not to become the problem, that the solution that we hope it provides, the solution becomes a problem itself? So I think it's upon us that as we progress with these type of interventions, both the educators and the industry, we work together and we prepare that we don't have oversupply of skills that are not required. So the student's question is that for me to be different from the ones that already industry, we work together and we prepare that we don't have that have seen what we produce, what becomes the problem, why they can't absorb our students. And I think collectively we need to be working on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to add to what the professor said regarding the question, there is a possibility that in the future there will be specialized skills like, should I use the words, blockchain and a supply chain specialist. However, there is something that we are struggling with in the country at the moment, which probably CETA is supposed to have done it. We are supposed to look at the current construction skills vis-a-vis where the future is going to say, are some skills obsolete? Are some skills necessary that we need to start training on it? Because people talk about drones, for instance, now, even BIM and all that. You know, there's going to be a BIM coordinator. Are we ready for that? Even our curriculum is not ready for that. We're not even saying it. So I think there needs to be a recalibration of the current skills pipeline. We need to look at our ISSP document now to look at, there are some certainly skills that we don't need anymore. It's like somebody saying you need a typewriter in the university at the moment, or a typist. It's not there anymore. So there will be a possibility to say you will have the SCM department be recalibrated. However, we will not do away with the tendering department. The SCM will still be there. But most of the people in the SCM department would be kind of reskilled or transformed to actually be able to coordinate the platform. They'll be monitoring what is happening. Because if you look at what Dr. O was talking about, if there is a change, somebody needs to take accountability. Just the way there is, if there's a ZB specification, somebody did not submit something, for instance. So there's going to be that kind of upskilling. But the question is, are we ready for it, even as a university, even as a country? Because at the moment, we are still training on plumbing, we are still training on a whole lot of things. Some of these skills are not mainstream at the moment. So the question is very valid, and it's something we need to start thinking about, even as universities, to say we need to start looking at those skills, considering what we're talking about. Thank you.
Can I comment?
You want to respond?
Okay. Perhaps to comment a bit on that, there is this idea that these technologies that are emerging are going to replace the current jobs, but it is not the technologies that are going to replace the job. It is the lack of skill that replaces the job. So as a student, if you are studying these skills, you are placing yourself in a better position, unlike someone that doesn't have the skill. That is why I said it's both. If you are already in a position that requires the skill, you need to upskill yourself, because lack of the skill is going to limit you in advancing in that particular position. So what we are doing currently in our curriculum, if I'm to speak from my field, we are trying to align the curriculum in such a way that we incorporate those skills into the accounting curriculum, because we've seen that there is a new thing out there in the market. Because when we train you, for example, to be a chartered accountant, you go and audit the industry that is using all these technologies that you are not exposed to. So we are trying to bridge this gap by aligning our curriculum so that whatever we teach is relevant to what is happening in the industry. So as academics, we don't really go out, but we identify the problem or what is happening in the industry. And then we find an academic solution to solve an industry problem. So when I was talking about the people in the industry solving the problem, we only propose, but we've never really tested, but we investigate or look into the problem and then find or propose a way of solving the problem. Are you happy with that?
Thank you very much. I don't know why they left these questions for you. You see, it's tough to be a woman. Can I ask our professor of practice, John Ladler, to come and give our guest her gift and thank her? Right. Thank you. You didn't give it to her? Oh, take it back then. Okay, whilst we're getting ourselves, thank you very much.
That little John.
You're not the little Johnny. Oh, okay. You're reminding me, we had an accountant here presenting to a group of construction people from different disciplines within the built environment. And it took me back to a joke that my dad once shared with me of a scientist and a philosopher being chased by a lion. And he says to me, the scientist, typical of a scientist, they start calculating how far is the lion, how far they can outrun the lion. And the scientist turns around and says to the philosopher, might as well just give in, I'm not going to outrun the lion. The philosopher continues running, right? And then he's like, why are you running? Have you made your calculation? The philosopher says, no, my calculation was to outrun you. So with that said, in life, we continuously need to change and adapt to new changes. And what is happening in the environments, the built environments, is that we've started seeing executive deans of different universities coming together, bringing in the industry people and saying, let's talk about what we're delivering to our students, let's talk about why is it that when our students enter places of world at work, they don't survive, you know? Is it because we are not making them focus on the future? Are they future ready, or are we just focusing are we just focusing on the curriculum? And that's when you find terms like decolonization taking place. So we should not, as students, just leave it for our lecturers to prep us, but we also need to question the status quo. To prep us, but we also need to question the status quo. We need to understand that generation future and which direction you as an individual should be taking, and engage then your lecturers or people in academia in that. So you are the generation that questions things. Go ahead and question your lecturers so that you can be a well-balanced employee or entrepreneur as you exit our institution. With that said, I would like blockchain demo presentation and use cases to get ready. I'm not sure how it's going to be done. Yeah. After him, we are meant to have lunch. It's 1:07. Do we continue with lunch, or do we just finish up with our panel discussion, then have lunch afterwards? Suggestions? Well, option 1, option 2. Option 1, lunch now after demo. Okay, all right, thank you. So as soon as you're done, colleagues, I won't come up. If we can just move to the foyer for lunch, thank you.
They have the slide.
Yes, you can come in. Yes. So this forward, this backward. Okay.
Which one is
She's
this
forward.
Okay.
No, don't plug it now. Just don't plug it now. You want to set up.
Wait, can we check it?
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to check everything. Okay, okay. Just wait. Yeah. Yes, you can check it. Yes, connected. You're welcome. Yeah. So can I just explain to them what they'll be expecting before you start the format of the presentation? Yeah.
Explain to them. They will see where the presentation is supposed.
There are two presentations. Yeah, so let me just explain to them. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I believe we've had wonderful presentations so far. We are from UJ Blockchain. For the event today, we'll be doing 3 different sets of demos. Each demo is a link up to the one preceding it. For this particular section, we'll be doing 2 sets of demo. The first one involves us interacting via our custom-built AI with a drone, which you can find over there. Then the second one is our custom-built system for BIM with AI and blockchain. So, and the last one will come up after lunch, which is a decentralized tender system. So after we present the first presentation, there will be a short time gap for you to ask questions before we go to the second one. You can start up with your slide.
I need the mic. Can I pick one?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bonolo Moraka, and this is engineer Edmond Rotimi. He didn't introduce himself. But yeah, so what we will be showing you now is the AI building inspector. Elon Musk must just move over because we're just going to launch a drone right now. Okay, so basically what the AI building inspector does was developed to be able to be controlled either in the indoor space or outdoor space, focusing on automation and real-time analysis and complying with the South African Building Code. Key features of it, it's that it can connect and disconnect. It has an emergency landing and a live camera feed with statistics for the battery, its position, and the status. And then it analyzes the environment, a whole 360 degrees analyzation, and it also captures the altitude, the area rather, the height and the altitude of the area. And then it also has a face and hand gesture that you can control the drone with. And then also it has an AI-powered defect detection on saved videos with the UJ blockchain AI model. And then it also checks for cracks and any safety hazards as per South African building standard code. So it also has an offline text-to-speech for drone commands and status updates, and also has a very stunning UI that is user-friendly and anyone can interact with it. So basically, the design summary of it is that it uses a drone, and one can work with it using either a commercial drone or a customized drone. It's not finicky. And then also a computer vision and AI-driven analysis into a single elegant app interface. It also leverages gestures, whether you without having to use, as you're gonna see when we are demoing any any hardware rather, but rather using the application. Also a real-time video streaming on the drone, and it also has an interactive AI-assisted inspection to improve safety, efficiency, and compliance in construction and mining industries. So basically, why the drone and the application in essence was created, it's due to the challenges in construction and mining inspections. So currently the manual inspections are time consuming, they're very risky and inconsistent because a human being will have to go into a very hazardous environment to actually inspect such. So rather, that's where the drone comes in. And then also the indoor inspections of construction and mining site that are challenging due to constrained space and safety risk. And the existing drone solutions lack integration with building code compliance, as I had mentioned, of the South African building standards. And the small and medium enterprises in construction lack affordable and efficient inspection to technologies. And how it basically works is that it connects to a drone. The drone has a live camera feed that activates without flight, and then it analyzes the environment. And then the drone rises now and then rotates at 360 degrees to capture the video for the inspection. And then the drone will save the video, and then it will hover, awaiting the next command. And then you can either stop the drone with a hand gesture, or you can use the application, and then it checks for any defects on the video that it took of the environment, and then it analyzes it using the UJ blockchain AI for any structural safety and code compliance. And then it also offers the TTS, provides a voice feedback for drone commands and status. So without any further ado, we can move now to actually showing you what the drone does.
You can switch to.
So basically, this is the UI of the application. If you can just move down for me, please, so that we can look. So you can see the status of the drone, how much percentage it has. Right now, it has not connected. It's not connected, so we will have to connect now with the drone.
Failed. Please check drone power and Wi-Fi connection.
Okay, like this. Sorry, it was inactive for a long time.
So basically, the drone, to connect with the drone, it uses the local network. And then that's how you are able to connect to the drone. But then for the AI, as we will continue with using the application, it needs to connect to the Wi-Fi. So can we please connect to the drone? Okay. If you cannot see yourself on the screen, it means you're not here. But okay. But then now we will go on to analyze the environment with the drone. So that is the drone analyzing the environment. It starts at 20 centimeters, and then it also goes up, and that's the full 360 of the drone analyzing the environment. So on the application, if the analyze environment button is still grayed out, it means it's still analyzing and checking for any defects within the room. And now that it's done, we can land the drone. And there's our spaceship, safely landed. So now we are going to check for any defects on the video that the drone took. So